A new greenhouse is going to help grow fresh produce for families in need here in the North Country. It was built by volunteers at St. Joseph's Outreach Center in West Plattsburgh, right next to the food pantry and soup kitchen. Once up and running sometime early next year, it's estimated the produce grown there will help feed roughly 100 local families.
Agency-wide, over the last 12 months, our numbers have doubled across every service. Food more than doubled. So we are seeing families and households that we've never served before in any capacity.
People are hungry 365 days a year, folks. Okay? This outreach center is reaching into people's homes and making sure that not only they have food, but they have good, nutritious food.
The greenhouse was built by the JCEO, Hydro-Quebec, and TDI, which is the company that's laying the cable along the bottom of Lake Champlain and the Hudson River to deliver billions of dollars worth of electricity, hydropower, from Quebec to New York City, beginning in May of 2026. Hydro-Quebec has pledged to spend more than $130 million on projects like this in communities from the Quebec border all the way to New York City.
We tend to stay away from the write a check approach, which is very transactional. We don't like that. We like the relationship. So we will fund initiatives, but we want to have a relationship. We think that's at the core of the value.
JCEO feeds hundreds of households in both Clinton and Franklin counties every month. Cornell Cooperative Extension will help train the nearly 3 dozen master gardeners who will volunteer to work at the greenhouse and grow the produce. And Nicole Lauren joins us now. We appreciate you being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
The ribbon was cut on the new greenhouse a couple of weeks ago. You hope to have it up and running by sometime next spring?
That is our plan, and then all of the produce that comes out of that will then go into our food pantry in the town of Plattsburgh, as well as the soup kitchen that St. Joseph's operates.
Which is right next door. They're all right there together. Master gardeners from Cornell Cooperative Extension are working with and training about 3 dozen volunteers who are going to grow the produce in the greenhouse?
Yep, there's a variety of groups that are going to all kind of partner and keep that going. So a bunch of people will have a hand in there making sure that it's productive.
And they're still trying to figure out exactly what they're going to grow.
Correct. Some of that is going to be trial and error and figure out what works best in that type of greenhouse, but we actually have 2 other greenhouses in Malone that are very successful, so they can maybe model some things off of those as well.
And as you mentioned, the food will be going to the food pantry right next door, also to the soup kitchen there at St. Joe's, which feeds several hundred people a week.
It does, yes. They've been successful having just kind of like the drive-through model, and they do get at least a couple hundred every week.
And you mentioned at the ribbon cutting, demand is up?
It is. Since the SNAP benefits were reduced back in 2023, we've actually seen several of our locations double in numbers, which is a drastic jump in a short amount of time, especially when we look at limited funding, sometimes decreasing funding, so we're having to get creative at times.
You're talking about hundreds of families?
Yes. In our Malone location alone, we went from about 220 households per month to over 450 per month. At all of our locations, we're seeing similar trends. We have pockets where we see it has grown a little bit more, but honestly, at every location we have. Right now, we're operating 14 different food pantries, and every one of them has seen an increase.
The greenhouse will help grow fresh produce. That'll help about 100 families, you're guessing?
We serve about 200 at that one location per month. Obviously, it ebbs and flows a little bit, but could be up to 200.
You're seeing this across both counties, Franklin County, Clinton County. All your food pantries are seeing an increase right now.
Correct. We've also seen an increase in the household types that we're seeing. So we're seeing more households that meet that ALICE criteria versus before. In our Malone location, we're also seeing several Amish individuals and families that are accessing services as well.
And you talk about ALICE, the United Way folks. We've worked with them for a number of years on ALICE. So that's families that are just getting by.
Correct. So some of our programs are income-based, where they look at the federal poverty level, which honestly is really low when we're talking guidelines to figure out who actually needs assistance. So those ALICE households are typically above that amount, and then they need a little extra assistance. It's actually a very large chunk of our population that falls in that category, and that's the primary group that we're seeing right now who needs assistance.
And are you anticipating that you may see the demand grow even more?
At the rate we're going, absolutely. It's concerning because they don't qualify necessarily for heat benefits all the time. And that's another huge expense that families and households are facing right now. And that's another area where we see kind of a gap sometimes. We may be able to access private foundation grants, or we have had some other health systems that have helped us with grants, or other local foundations, but there's always a greater need. So those households tend to kind of fall through the cracks when it comes to heating assistance as well as food.
So they may turn to the food pantry for help. In what other ways may you be able to help them?
It's possible they may qualify for other services like our weatherization program. So that might be a way they can make their home more energy efficient to save on their expenses, as well as it's safer and healthier for them. So that may be an avenue they could qualify for potentially. Our Head Start, Early Head Start program is also income-based, but if we can't find a spot for their kiddo in that program, we may be able to help them find daycare if they're trying to get back to work or find a way to generate some more income.
And if it's food insecurity primarily, and if they're turning to the food pantry for help, can they get most of the food that they need from the food pantry?
Absolutely. So we actually are essentially a grocery store. That's one thing we've done in several of our locations over the last few years, is convert them to choice pantries. So you actually go in and it's like you're shopping. Some of our locations even have shopping carts, and you go through the aisles. We have everything from produce, milk, dairy, bread, and then all of your staple items. We have meat as well.
And are you getting more help from organizations? Are people donating more to you? Are you able to find more grant money to keep your food pantries stocked? Because if you have a greater demand, you've got to have more food.
I would say we're getting by. It is always kind of a creative puzzle that we're trying to figure out on how we can keep making this work at the rate that we're going. So we do get some federal funding where we use a portion of that to pay for the staff that operate our food pantries, and then we supplement with volunteers. But as far as the food itself, a lot of that we do through donations, food drives, and a lot of grant writing. But that becomes more and more difficult as the cost of everything keeps rising.
And do you get help from the grocery stores in the area?
We do. So we partner with several of the local stores through Feeding America. So we get the items as they're nearing that sell-by date, which honestly we all know means there's still a lot of time left. So we are then able to redistribute that throughout all of our food pantries. So that's where we get a lot of the bread, what we call sweets, so cakes and cookies and all of those great things that people still want to have, as well as a lot of produce too.
And are the pantries staffed by workers for JCEO or volunteers? And do you have enough volunteers if they're helping out?
So most of our locations have at least one staff member. At our City of Plattsburgh location, we also have a food and nutrition delivery driver who has to pick up and distribute all of that food as well. And then we supplement with volunteers, and we always need more volunteers, especially as we get into the winter. We have a lot of volunteers who head down south for a little while, which is great for them, but it makes it a little tricky for us because we really need extra sets of hands, especially in the City of Plattsburgh right now.
And if folks can volunteer, how do they reach out to you?
Go right to our website. We actually have a volunteer application on there, and they can see opportunities that are available or let us know what their availability is or what they're willing and able to do.
So Hydro-Quebec is financing this greenhouse at St. Joseph's, part of its multi-billion-dollar contract with New York State to supply electricity to New York City.
It was great when they reached out to us because they didn't have an idea when they came to the table. They're like, we know you help people and you can help us figure out what this community needs. We brainstormed several ideas and we landed on this greenhouse partially because we've been able to do it successfully in Franklin County.
How much has Hydro-Quebec donated to this project specifically to build the greenhouse, and will that funding be consistent every year?
So far they've invested $15,000 to get it up and running, and as they had talked about during the ribbon cutting, they'd like this to be a long-term relationship at least for the next 25 years to keep making sure that that food makes it back to those that need it.
Nicole Lauren, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.